Habitat Network. There is Women in Cities International and the Wairu Commission. So I'm going to invite all our speakers to the stage to start. Ayanda Roji, General Manager, City Parks from Johannesburg. I invite you to come up forward. Mr. Abdullah Aksoy, the Gaziantep Metropolitan Municipality Vice General, Secretary and Head of Department for Women, as well as Gökhan Durutas from the Foundation for the Support of Women's Work and a member of the Wairu Commission, also from Turkey. I would also like to invite Ms. Wanjiru Mabutia from the Wairu Commission. I will give a brief introduction once everyone comes forward. Then Ms. Maite Rodriguez from the Women in Habitat Network of Latin America. We will also have a few more speakers. Mr. Elkin Velasquez from UN Habitat Latin America. He will join us a little later. And we have two people from who will be joining us on the video. So the purpose of this event really is we know that there's been a lot of work at the grassroots level, at the municipal level, in countries around the world to address the specific issues of how to make city spaces more gender-friendly, how to make services in cities more gender-responsive, and to make to really look at women's right to the city as integral to the way that our cities are planned, designed, and even visioned. Because if we talk about the right to the city is also the right to have a dream of what kind of city you want. It's not just accessing services. So we need to have a broader vision of what a gender-responsive city actually means. So as you can see, we really have a variety of speakers from all over the world. I'm going to start by asking our friends from Turkey to participate. So as I said, we have two people who will be speaking. Mr. Abdullah Aksoy, who is from the Gaziantep Metropolitan Municipality. He is the Vice General Secretary and Head of Department for Women, Family, Education, and Social Affairs. We also have Gökhan Durutas from the Foundation for the Support of Women's Work and a member of Wairu Commission. I'm going to first hand over to Gökhan to start, and then Mr. Abdullah will also share their programs. So over to you.
So everyone hears me? Okay, thank you. So today I will share our experience of a resilient neighborhood program that we have been developing and implementing with a group of, with 100 community leader women organized in Gaziantep, here represented by Abdullah Aksoy. These community leaders from local communities and as well as Syrian refugees in the city. As the Foundation for the Support of Women's Work, we function as a resource organization for organized group of grassroots women, empower and equip them to lead resilient, sustainable, and just community development through their own autonomous, independent organizations, women's cooperatives, grassroots women's cooperatives. So in this program, focusing on, moving from the neighborhood to initiate a transformative change from local, led by grassroots women themselves, and taking resilience with a holistic approach from all dimensions, including social, economic, environmental, and physical. This group of community leader women, they develop their solutions, they develop their own solutions for the challenges they face. They generated their own evidences on what works best for them, produce their knowledge to be able to influence policies, to transform their neighborhoods, to be a place safer for women and children, and greener place, healthier place where goods and services are affordable and accessible for all. And to summarize, I will talk about the methodology briefly and give a brief of results from our perspective, and hand this over to Abdullah Aksoy to talk about their perspective in this program as well. So to summarize the steps briefly, the grassroots women from refugee groups and local communities get organized. Of course, women who are willing to take leadership roles come together, get organized and trained on the topics such as leadership, resilience, disasters, climate crisis. And this community leader women, in collaboration with the municipality, determine the neighborhoods, the communities, and the stakeholders that they want to work with, and start organizing women around them. And then community leader women determine their resilience indicators with focuses on disasters, economic shocks, pandemic. And these indicators included pre and post phases, as well as during those shocks and crises. And these indicators included some of the examples: infrastructure, service availability, security, health, sanitation, transportation, livelihoods, food availability of goods, food security. And then based on these indicators, they map their risks, the risks and resources in their neighborhoods. In the pilot phase, women used physical maps, working with the urban planners. So this was like this, of course, it was huge. But when we were expanding the program to different neighborhoods, we integrated this physical maps into municipalities' GPS system, and we developed a digital application where women could use on tablets, smartphones. And after the mapping is completed, women assess these risks, identify priorities, and develop joint solutions. And these solutions, of course, also reviewed in terms of the plans, policies, programs of the municipalities, as well as other local stakeholders. And finally, each neighborhood, women leaders develop action plans for each neighborhood, advocate and negotiate on these solutions for resource allocation to put these into action, and start working with the municipality and other actors to put these solutions into concrete actions. And before passing the word to Abdullah Bey, I would like to share some of the examples of these concrete actions. For example, I will talk about one specific neighborhood. So trees were planted, especially in unused areas. So streets were improved, like with renovations, additional lighting for security for women and children. Roads were improved, especially for the safety of the pedestrians. And water systems improved, and for example, emergency assembly points were identified. These are very small examples. On the other hand, knowledge acquired by the community leaders cascaded to the other women in the community, and they were recognized as, for example, they became focal points for the municipality, while community members started calling them for everything they want to apply. So out of those priorities, I mean, we have like a action plan for different neighborhoods, but two emerging points were identified, which we are looking to put these into actions. One is like making physical improvements in the settlements. So this is one prior next step for us. And the second is creating a social business model where women will be making money through women's cooperative while providing services for the municipality. This is the idea through parks and recreation services. So thank you. Maybe Abdullah Bey can.
Maybe you can just mention that they speak in Turkish and it will translate.
Buyurun siz. Biraz daha böyle gelebilirsiniz.
Just say that he'll speak in Turkish and translate it into English.
So,
the next speaker will speak in Turkish, and he will be translated into English, and then you will all get the other language translations as well on your headphones. Thank you. Please.
Evet, öncelikle davetiniz için çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Mehmet Abdullah Aksoy, Gaziantep Büyükşehir Belediyesi'nde Genel Sekreter Yardımcısı, ama daha önce 12 yıldır belediye Başkanımızla bakanlığı döneminde, Aile Sosyal Politikalar Bakanlığı döneminden beri Sayın Başkanımızla çalışıyoruz. Çünkü belediye başkanımız bir kadın belediye başkanı ve daha önce de Aile ve Sosyal Politikalar Kurucu Bakanlığı yaptı. O dönemden beri 12 yıldır Sayın Bakanımızla çalışıyoruz. Özellikle bugün hem dünyanın sorunu, bütün aslında daha önce bu 4-5 gündür katıldığımız birçok toplantılarda özellikle toplumsal cinsiyetle ilgili konular gündeme geldiği zaman farklı ülkelerden gelen konuşmacılarda her ülkenin de kendine göre bazı sıkıntıları, özellikle kadınlara yönelik bazı sıkıntılar olduğunu dile getirdiler. Evet.
Hello, welcome. Thank you very much for having this opportunity. My name is Abdullah Aksoy. I'm the Secretary General in Gaziantep Metropolitan Municipality. Our mayor couldn't be here today. We have been working together with Madam Mayor for the last 12 years during her ministry term in the ministry as the founding minister of the Ministry of Family. And we are working on these areas of social inclusion, family matters, and gender equality ever since. And we have attended many sessions throughout UN Habitat, and we have seen that many countries, many cities are having similar problems in the area of inequalities with regard to gender issues.
Tabii Gaziantep, Türkiye'de özellikle Suriye sınırında olan bir şehirdir. 2011 yılında Suriye'deki krizle birlikte şu an 500 bin Suriyeli mültecilerin yaşadığı bir şehir. Şehrin nüfusunun %24'üne tekabül eden bir Suriyeli mülteciler yaşıyor.
Gaziantep is dealing with the refugee crisis since 2011. We have 2 million population and the number of Syrian refugees around 500,000.
Bununla birlikte tabii ki iç göçü de alan bir şehirdir. Çünkü bir taraftan sanayisi gelişmiş 300 bine yakın organize sanayi bölgesinde çalışan işçisiyle hem ülkenin ekonomisine katkı sağlayan hem kendi şehir olarak gerçekten sürekli gelişen, özellikle pandemi sürecinde Türkiye'nin ekonomisine hem kendi şehrinin ekonomisine katkı sağlayan iç göçten gelen, dış göçten gelen birçok iş adamları var.
And Gaziantep is also receiving a lot of domestic migration as well. It is a city of industry. It has been a major producer throughout Turkish history, including the pandemic, in many different fields. Therefore, it's receiving migration both from outside and also inside of Turkey.
Ama özellikle tabii ki bugün konumuz özellikle toplumsal cinsiyetle ilgili toplandığımızdan dolayı tabii başımızda belediye başkanı olan bir kadın var ve daha önce de Aile ve Sosyal Politikalar Bakanlığı da yaptığından dolayı özellikle şehrin ilk milletvekili, hatta bölgenin ilk kadın milletvekilidir. İlk kadın bakanıdır. İlk kadın büyükşehir belediye başkanıdır. Bu da özellikle kadına yönelik şiddetle mücadele konusunda ve toplumsal cinsiyete duyarlı bütçeleme konusunda elimizi güçlendiren bir idari yapımız var.
Of course, today we will be discussing about gender equality and the reflections of that issue on the city management. As having a mayor who's a woman, and also she has been the founding minister of the Ministry of Family and Social Affairs. She has been the first MP from her town. She has been the first minister from the region, and she has been the first metropolitan mayor from Gaziantep. Therefore, we are quite fortunate to have a leading women perspective in issues such as violence, fighting against violence against women, and also gender-sensitive budgeting.
Özellikle sağlıkta, eğitimde, istihdama erişimde, şehrin planlanmasında, bütçelemede ve birlikte yaşam konusunda her iki gerek hem erkekler, kadınlar, özellikle bahsettiğim gibi Suriyelilerin de gelmesiyle birlikte iki toplumun da beraber yaşadığı, beraber karar alabildiği, kadın dostu, çocuk dostu, genç dostu bir şehirdir Gaziantep.
Therefore, Gaziantep is doing its best to create equal opportunities for men and women, including Syrian refugees and also our local community in the area of health, education, employment, city planning, and coexisting, because we are now two societies living together, and we are trying to provide equal opportunities for the members of this both community now.
Özellikle şuna inanıyoruz, toplumun her iki cinsi de, yani kadın desteklenmediği zaman, kadın ekonominin, kalkınmanın, toplumun bir parçası olmadığı takdirde güçsüz bir toplum olduğuna inanıyoruz. O yüzden mutlaka kadın kalkınmanın da, ekonominin de, iktisadın da bir parçası haline getirmeye inanıyoruz.
We believe that supporting women and women empowerment is a central part of economy development and all instruments of financing. Without supporting them, there will be no true development, no true economic growth that we can speak of.
Özellikle Sayın Başkanımızın gelmesiyle birlikte kadının güçlenmesi konusunda, kendi ayakları üzerinde durabilmesi konusunda birçok projeye imza attık. Özellikle İdari yapı konusunda Gaziantep Büyükşehir Belediyesi'nde 4 tane genel sekreter yardımcılığı bulunmaktadır. 3 tanesi kadın, sadece bir tanesi erkek, o da benim.
With our mayor, a lot of concrete steps have been taken for women empowerment and for making women more independent in all walks of life. And let me start from the administrative structure of our municipality. We have our female mayor, and we have 4 deputy secretary general positions, and 3 of them are women and 1 of them are men, which would be me.
Ama diğer tarafta bizim projelerimiz özellikle her toplum, hangi toplumda yaşayan bir kadın varsa o kadının güçlenmesi konusunda farklı farklı projeler yürütüyoruz. Özellikle şehirde yaşayan kadınların, özellikle teknolojiyle ilgilenen kadının güçlenmesi için, üretime dayalı işlerde çalışan kadınlarımızın güçlenmesi için destekliyoruz. Ama öbür tarafta kırsal kesimde çiftçi kadınlarımızın da güçlenmesi için birçok proje hayata geçirdik.
We believe that women empowerment is not a one-fit solution for all. Therefore, we are developing tailor-made projects for women in many different sectors of our cities, such as urban women might be more interested with some technological support, in IT support. That's what we do with our project. We also provide project support to manufacturing, producing women. Also, rural women, women farmers are also supported with tailor-made projects, so they will be truly empowered.
Aslında ilk baştan beri kadınımızın, çocuğumuzun yanında durmaya çalışıyoruz ve özellikle Sayın Başkanımızın son 4 yıldır hayata geçirdiği bir projeyi size söylemek istiyorum. Anneye süt, bebeğe can projesi. Her hamile kadının aylık olarak 12 litre belediye tarafından kendi evine teslim edilip hem annenin sağlığı hem çocuğun sağlığını korumaya yönelik bir proje yürütüyoruz ve şu ana kadar 5 milyon litre süt dağıtıldı. Bu projeden 80 bin civarında kadınımız faydalandı. Şu an 15 bin kadın aktif olarak her hamileliği süresince destek verdiğimiz bir süt projemiz var.
We are also attaching the utmost importance in the mother and infant health as well. Therefore, we start our support from the pregnancy of women. We have been implementing a project for the last 4 years that we says milk to mothers, life to babies. So we are providing 12 liters of water to each pregnant woman in our city per month. So far we have distributed 5 million liters of milk, and we have reached to 80,000 pregnant women during their pregnancies. They were able to receive regular milk consumption, and now at the moment 15,000 women are receiving their milk support on a monthly basis.
Özellikle çocuk belli bir yaşa geldikten sonra okul öncesi eğitimle ilgili özellikle çalışan kadınlarımızın desteklemek için belediye tamamıyla ücretsiz okul öncesi anaokulu, kreşler açıyor ve bu şekilde çalışan kadınlarımıza destek vermeye çalışıyor.
After birth, we continue our support to mothers because we want them to be involved in the working life. Therefore, our municipality is opening up preschools, kindergartens, free of charge, so those women can leave their kids there safely and will continue their working life.
Daha sonra özellikle çocuk işçiliği konusunda ve erken yaşta evlilikle mücadele konusunda ciddi bir farkındalık yarattık. Bu gelin etmeyin okula gönderin kampanyasıyla bütün STK'larla, milli eğitimle, valilikle, belediyeyle çalışıp farkındalığı o erken yaşta evlilikle mücadele kısmını güçlü bir çalışma yaptık. Bu çalışmanın sonucunda UNICEF'le birlikte Suriyeli mültecileri de işin içerisine dahil ederek özellikle erken yaşta evlilik, çünkü özellikle mülteciler konusunda daha 16 yaşında, 17 yaşında evlilikle maalesef sorun yaşıyorlardı. O yüzden erken yaşta evlilikle mücadele projesini yürüttük. Şu an ciddi anlamda o eğitimler hem velilere yönelik hem çocuklara yönelik o farkındalığı yaratmaya çalıştık. Şu an ciddi anlamda olumlu etkilerini gördük.
We are also doing our best to prevent child workers, and we want to stop early and forced marriages as well. Therefore, we have started a project that we call Not Brides, Graduates project. Therefore, we are supporting the families and their parents, so there will be no early and forced marriages. And we have extended this project with the participation of UNICEF because we have a Syrian community and we know that early age marriages are more prevalent among their community. So we continued our program involving refugees as well. Now we are doing a lot of trainings with a lot of awareness raising activities for parents and for the students at school.
Özellikle Haydi Kızlar yönetime, çünkü artık kızlarımız çok şükür eğitimin içerisinde kalıyorlar. Lise, üniversite, yüksek lisans, master'ını yapıyorlar ama ikinci aşama olarak Haydi Kızlar yönetime projesini yürüttük. Özellikle rol model olabilecek kişilerle buluşturuyoruz. Onlara özgüven gelebilmesi için kızların özellikle karar alma mekanizmalarında ciddi anlamda yer almaları için yüreklendiriyoruz, cesaretlendiriyoruz ve proje hala devam ediyor.
We also have another project to encourage girls to be in the leading positions whatever profession they choose. Therefore, we are organizing programs that they can have mentorship from the role models of successful women in different sectors, in different businesses. So they can spend time with them, they can be inspired, and they can be encouraged to be leaders in their respective choice of profession.
Özellikle başta da söyledim, 500 bin mülteciyle aslında bizim kendi vatandaşlarımıza verdiğimiz bütün hizmetleri Suriyeli mültecilere de aynı hizmeti veriyoruz. Her iki toplumun beraber eğitim aldığı merkezler kurduk. Şu an 35 tane şehrin her yerinde merkezlerimiz var. Farklı alanlarda mesleki eğitim kursları görülüyor. Türkçe dil eğitimi veriliyor, yabancı dil eğitimleri veriliyor ve bu hizmet hem kendi vatandaşlarımız hem de Suriyeli vatandaşlara ücretsiz olarak veriliyor. Buralarda da eğitim görenlerin %75'i kadın ve kız öğrencilerdir.
As I have said, we are hosting 500,000 refugees and we are providing vocational education and language education to those people as well in our 35 centers in different parts of the city. We are providing Turkish language courses, other languages, and these are entirely for free. When we look at the attendance to our courses, we have a 75% of women and girls who are attending to those courses. Therefore, I think it's worth mentioning.
Özellikle fikri olan, projesi olan kadınlarımız gelip belediyeye başvuruyor. Bizim bir merkezimiz var, Kadın Girişimci Destekleme Merkezimiz. Burada fikri olan, projesi olan gelip belediye onlara hem mentörlük hem danışmanlık, eğitim ve özellikle belli hibelerden faydalanabilmeleri için danışmanlık hizmetlerini veriyoruz. Bütün bunlar aslında kadının güçlenmesine yönelik yaptığımız çalışmalar. Yani hangi aşamada aslında çocuk daha kız çocuğumuz daha çocukluktan beri aşama aşama destekleyip kadınların kendi ayakları üzerinde durabileceği, ekonominin bir parçası olabileceği, kalkınmanın bir parçası olabileceğini inanarak bu projeleri yürütüyoruz. Ama tabii ki kadına yönelik şiddetle mücadele kısmında özellikle Sayın Başkanımızın bakanlığı döneminde 6284 ailenin korunması ve kadına yönelik şiddetle mücadele yasası çıkarıldı. Şu an ciddi anlamda kadınlarımız için bir güvencedir. Ama sadece yasaların çıkarılması tabii ki önemli değil. Bu yasaların özellikle hayata geçirilmesi ve erkekler olarak da zihinsel dönüşümün gerçekleşmesi gerekiyor. Yoksa sadece yasaların değişmesiyle ne şiddet ne de toplumsal cinsiyet gerçek anlamda gerçekleşmesi mümkün değil. O yüzden zihinsel dönüşümün de tabii ki belli bir zaman içerisinde değişiyor. Bu da merhale merhale, aşama aşama değiştiğini görüyoruz. Çok teşekkür ediyorum.
As I said, women empowerment starts from the very early ages in our municipality, from the womb, then in the early ages, and then in the teenage years to adulthood. We believe that women are a central part in our economy and development, and I should also like to mention that we have strong laws to prevent violence against women. We have a law number 6284, which is the protection of family and preventing violence against women. Having laws are, of course, very important, but implementation is everything, and the change of mentality is everything. So we are doing that. We are doing our best to effectively enforce the laws and also change the mentality of especially men to prevent violence. Thank you very much.
Çok özür diliyorum. Özellikle zamanın bittiğini ben biliyorum. Ama özellikle bu kadının güçlenmesi ve ayakları üzerinde durabilmesi, dirençli mahallenin, dirençli şehirlerin oluşabilmesi için son 5 yıldır Kadın Emeği Değerlendirme Vakfı ile çalışıyoruz. Projenin içerisinde UN Women var. Ve şu an mahallelerde yaptığımız bu projeyle birlikte özellikle lider kadınların seçilmesiyle birlikte her iki toplumun da kendi mahallesine sahip çıkma, zaten Gökçen Hanım da bahsetti. Kendi mahallesine sahip çıkıp kadın eliyle mahallesini güzelleştirip güvenceli bir sağlıklı ve güvenli bir mahalleye dönüştürmesi konusunda ciddi bir projedir. Bu önümüzdeki süreçte bütün şehre yayacak bu projeyi önemsiyoruz ve önümüzdeki süreçte çok daha olumlu sonuçlar alacağımıza inanıyorum. Tekrar teşekkür ediyorum.
And last but not the least, I should really mention that project that we've been successfully implementing with the Foundation to Support Women's Work, as Gökçe Hanım has mentioned, which we are creating women leaders in their neighborhoods. They are taking in control, they are in charge. They're creating safe, effective, clean and developed neighborhoods, which we believe is very important, and we are hoping to continue our very effective cooperation with them in future. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mr. Aksoy. I think the holistic kind of approach of this Gaziantep authority in really looking at refugees as equal citizens and partners is truly something that many countries now need to look at. I'm going to move to our next speaker, Ayanda Roji, who is the General Manager of City Parks in Johannesburg. She's a social scientist passionate about people-centered public spaces. She's the Head of Research and Knowledge Management at the City of Johannesburg's Parks and Zoo Agency. She holds a master's degree in local and regional development from the International Institute of Social Studies in the Netherlands. Over to you, Ayanda.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. So I will share our experience in Johannesburg of attempting to create safer spaces from a gender perspective. So I'll be speaking from a perspective of a city practitioner that is working on the ground with communities and other stakeholders. So I'll be sharing mainly lessons and what are some of the challenges that we are confronted with, as well as opportunities. I think by way of background, it is no secret that South Africa as a country has some of the highest levels of crime in the world. And that is exacerbated by the fact that the country itself has also one of the highest levels of inequality, and coupled with high levels of unemployment. So all of those is women who are bearing the brunt of these deep inequalities and socioeconomic issues. Yes, in 1994, there was a demise of apartheid. Everyone was free to move, throughout the country. But that brought new barriers. Women are not safe at home. It's difficult for us to navigate cities, to go to transport interchanges. Yes, people are free to move from rural areas to cities, But when they're in the cities, there's an issue of spatial inequality because they are put in the periphery of cities where those places are prone to vulnerability and like flooding and other environmental hazards, meaning they become like worse in terms of vulnerability. Also, the way our cities are designed and produced, you can see that is from a male perspective. So people who are really in the built environment industry are mostly men. So this contributes to the safety, the comfort of women in cities. And then came COVID that worsened all these issues. The loss of income, for women, it leads to increased poverty, hunger, and so forth and so on, but also dependence on men. So I thought I should put that context. But in terms of some of the things that we tried, which we consider as good practice, working in a city council, we partnered with 2 international agencies. The first one is GIZ, Inclusive Violence and Crime Prevention Program. And the second one is UN Habitat Global Public Space Program. So I'll mention just 2 case studies because of time. The first one is in the inner city of Johannesburg, where we tried to transform parks that were unsafe into community spaces that are inclusive, accessible, and safe. In this locality or in this site, we partnered with these 2 agencies. They helped us in terms of bringing participatory ways of engaging communities. So GIZ helped us in terms of working with the safety department around safety audits, but also around mapping the community with women. So it was really about being deliberate to have a conversation with women, to hear their desires and also their needs and areas where they can contribute. So that's the first one. And the second one, UN Habitat helps us in terms of bringing in Minecraft so that we can hear the voices of women. Sometimes as city practitioners or what is happening in the cities, we bring people to a community hall where there are many people and we can't really hear specifically the needs or the views of women. So the second one, I'm not going into detail because the information is available online. The second one is around an informal settlement that has got some of the high levels of highest rates of violence against women recorded in national studies. It's called Diepsloot. So here, UN Habitat, together with Block by Block Foundation, they helped us to engage women on how to create safer spaces, because it's an informal settlements. There's limited spaces, there's limited parks and other spaces. This is where we learned what safety means for women and girls. And also we were challenged in terms of how we deliver services and also how we are under-servicing those areas. And coming back to the first case study in the inner city, coming out of the pilot project, it was a program that saw the potential of women in that locality to be leaders. And it was also an opportunity to see how activation really helps to bring people together, but also to make parks safer. So coming out of that, we sort of changed a short-term employment program of the city that was general and also focusing on grass cutting and litter picking. And we thought it would be nice to have that program focusing on women leaders in a community, to man the parks, to coordinate activities of communities and users in parks. So that was powerful. But there are other things that are happening in the city. We've got a gender policy, but also we have a city safety forum that is being led by our safety department that is trying to get input from other city departments in an integrated fashion. But there are challenges in terms of all this work. The first one, yes, we've got a gender policy, but sometimes Also, national level, there's a strategy to deal with gender-based violence, but sometimes the implementation, like the gentleman said, it becomes difficult. There's a disconnect between policy and implementation, and also how our cities are set up. We have different departments. Yes, there's a logic in terms of doing that, but when it comes to gender inequality and gender transformation issues, you've got a department that deals with safety, and then you have another one that deals with issues of gender, that is in social development, which is a separate department. But even us as women, we are so diverse. You've got women that are working in informal economy. It will be another department, economic development. And also we have women that are differently abled. So it will be another department within social development, but it's a different unit. All these are challenges when we want to work on the ground and to really tackle issues of gender equality in a very intersectoral manner. And the issue of mainstreaming then becomes so needed, because most of the time what we found is that city practitioners, they are scared of complexity. Our lives are so complex, and how our cities, our realities are so complex. So we see things like, if I'm working in parks, just fauna and flora and users of the space. We don't see beyond that. Right now we have an issue of people who are faced with homelessness that are living in parks. It's such a complex issue, but it's difficult for city practitioners to deal with that complexity, which is another issue that has been that came up from Turkey. Meaning, when it comes to issues of gender equality, we leave them to social development from a city perspective, and within department, we leave it to, oh no, it's a human resource issue, so we don't really deal with it. Just to talk with the last challenge that I see as important, and maybe it's an issue that could be tackled, is an issue of capacity for city practitioners. Because if you are dealing with these issues, you need capacity to convene. I mean, coming from an NGO sector, that is basic, it's something that you expect. But in cities, it's difficult to convene different stakeholders. But also because that convening comes with conflicts, but also with contestations and so forth and so on. You need mediation skills. So there's things that we thought were soft skills. They are so important in terms of really tackling these issues. Just to mention that in our work in the inner city of Johannesburg, working with GIZ, we saw that there's something that sometimes we don't realize, that women themselves, they have knowledge, they have capacity, and also they know the solutions that need to be put on the table. And in terms of lessons, I'm wrapping up. Or what are some of the things that I can leave today to say we need, they need to be tackled? The first one is the strengthening of capacity of city practitioners and policymakers on how to take an intersectional approach to urban planning and design, maybe using public space as an avenue to do that. And also when it comes to intersectionality, we're scared of talking about gender minorities as city practitioners. We don't know where to start. Yes, I'm talking about capacity that is limited within the state, but that capacity rests somewhere. NGOs, they have capacity. Faith-based organizations, community organizations, they have capacity. So it's really an issue of collaboration. And the last one, I think going forward, if we are really have to do something like maybe tomorrow, is to really try to experiment. I think pilots, for me, they are very powerful in terms of showcasing what could be, in terms of imagining. But sometimes working in a city council, our leaders are afraid of, not afraid, they like big things, you know, because those things are tangible. But also, a thing about them, they have short-term a period in local government. So they want to show something now. So I think the issue of experimenting and partnering with organizations that can help cities to pilot and to test things will be like a one of the first steps in the right direction. And lastly, we are hopeful because also we have a female mayor who was also heading social development. So we're hopeful that will be heard and maybe some of the things that we dream about could be realized. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I think that one statement that our lives are complex, and therefore even the response to it has to recognize this complexity is really important for us to understand. I'm going to go to the next speaker. I'm not going to speak because there's really no time. There's so many great speakers. The next one is on video. Ms. Nomusa Shembe from the eThekwini municipality. She is the senior manager of the Safer Cities unit at the eThekwini municipality, responsible for social crime prevention and urban safety. She's been working for the past 20 years, both at provincial and local government, promoting social development programs. Please.
As eThekwini municipality, we have been involved in the Safer Cities project over the past 20 years, and we have been engaging our partners, including our city administrators, including our civil society organizations, to understand safety as a transversal approach. Within our city, we have been able to provide the safety lens in all our functions, and through that, we have been able also to engage with the partners like Soul City and Safety Pin to embed safety agenda into our safety strategy, which we have recently produced, and as a result, we have been able to provide a safety lens in all our interventions. The Safer City approach is data-driven. We have been able to use the data that is collected, and when it is analyzed, it is responded accordingly, and the city has been able to take that information to another level through identifying those gaps that have been identified through the safety audit, and take those gaps into the city functions, like the issue of street lighting. The safety pin has been able to identify those areas wherein we are able then to forge in terms of engaging and address those issues as part of the city functions, not necessarily as a policing function, but it also adds value to the fact that safety is not only an issue for policing, but it's also a responsibility of all other departments within the city.
I think all our speakers have emphasized that safety is not a policing issue. It's an issue of hearing women's voices and creating community-led initiatives. So I'm going to hand over to our next speaker, Maite Rodriguez, who has many hats. She's one of the founders of the Women in Peace Network of Latin America. She is the regional coordinator of the Women in Habitat Network of Latin America. She's a member of the Wairu Commission. She works in Guatemala at the local level at the Fundación Guatemala, and she is one of the people who has really pioneered the Safe Cities approach in Latin America, from which all of us around the world have learned so much. Over to you, Maite.
Muchas gracias. Yo voy a hablar en español porque tenemos traducción aquí. Entonces, si se ponen sus audífonos, porfa. Bueno, sí, gracias, Kalpana. Pues nosotras somos parte de la red Mujer y Hábitat de América Latina y Caribe, que es una de las redes fundadoras de la Comisión Wairu. Y también, pues, estamos formando parte de la coalición global de ciudades y espacios seguras por mujeres y para mujeres y niñas, que es todo el proceso que hicimos con todo el tema de Beijing más 25 y Generación Igualdad. Bueno, la verdad es que lo que Kalpana dice sí es cierto, ¿verdad? O sea, hemos estado trabajando de allí en formar como una corriente de las ciudades seguras. Al principio, estoy hablando del año 2006, cuando prácticamente inicia en América Latina, en el sur más que todo. Y no es casualidad, estaba yo pensando que las primeras ciudades que se sumaron al programa, que dieron vida al programa de ciudades seguras para las mujeres, el programa regional de ciudades libres de violencia, fueron Rosario en Argentina, Santiago de Chile y Bogotá en Colombia. Y no es casualidad que en Suba, cerquita de Bogotá, se haya comenzado el primer proceso para resignificar espacios públicos. Y no es casualidad que ahí empieza todo el proceso ahorita del sistema de cuidados de Bogotá. Por eso está tan vinculado y tan avanzado, porque es una ciudad que incluyó en la perspectiva de las ciudades seguras para las mujeres hace ya más de casi 20 años de esto, ¿verdad? Entonces, por eso es que podemos ver como quien dice que una va sumando y sumando. Bueno, después vinieron todos los demás, nos sumamos 7 países, entró El Salvador, entró Guatemala, entró también Recife, entró una ciudad de Lima, un área de Lima, al total que éramos 7 países y 3 ciudades. A partir de allí comenzamos a trabajar en 2 enfoques, básicamente. El enfoque de la promoción de los derechos humanos de las mujeres para prevenir violencias, porque era todo el tema de que si este tema de las ciudades seguras tiene que ver o no con que, bueno, que hay mucho armamento en nuestros países, que hay muchas pistolas y hay muchas armas ilegales. Solo en Centroamérica se decía hace 10 años que había más de 5 millones de armas circulando y 3 millones de ellas son ilegales, ¿verdad? Entonces, por eso decimos no tiene tanto que ver con ese enfoque, pero tiene que ver con el enfoque de empoderar a las mujeres. Si una mujer está empoderada para defender sus derechos humanos, pues puede prevenir violencias en un sentido muy importante. A partir de allí comenzamos a trabajar con municipios, comenzamos a trabajar con lideresas barriales, hicimos todo un trabajo de levantamiento, de auditorías de seguridad de las mujeres, todo lo que sea la resignificación de espacios públicos. Hicimos todo un trabajo de formar también en otra de las esferas del trabajo en América Latina, trabajar con actores policiales, porque lo que decíamos era, ya trabajamos en el plano, digamos, espacial, ya estamos en el espacio, estamos trabajando planes de ordenamiento territorial directamente, estamos trabajando incidencia política en los municipios, estamos trabajando empoderamiento de liderazgo de las mujeres que están recorriendo sus territorios. Nos faltaba trabajar con los actores policiales para darles una formación, sensibilización, diseño de protocolos de actuación. Y así hicimos el protocolo de actuación en casos de violencia sexual a la policía de Colombia. Así hicimos el trabajo de normar currículas en las policías de Guatemala, de El Salvador, de Chile, de Argentina. Y luego, pues seguimos trabajando con la policía. Quiero decir que seguimos formando a los agentes territoriales en temas de seguridad de las mujeres, derechos humanos y demás. Todo eso nos dio como a pensar que necesitábamos esto que están viendo ustedes acá, que es la Agenda Regional de Mujeres por la Ciudad, que se construyó básicamente de agendas nacionales. En Guatemala, pues aquí está una de las lideresas que trabajó en esa agenda, Ingrid, que se trabajó en su municipio y en Ciudad de Guatemala, y así trabajando para identificar qué necesitábamos colocar en las agendas de mujeres por ciudades seguras, por los derechos a la ciudad. Y bueno, y en ese sentido, pues yo quiero decir, después les voy a mostrar esto así rapidito, qué temas incluyen nuestras agendas de mujeres, pero no quiero dejar de decirlo sin antes decir, de ahí nos vino COVID. Vino el COVID y vino que no habíamos maneras de recorrer las autoridades de seguridad, no teníamos manera pues con el confinamiento de salir a la calle y comenzamos a trabajar arduamente en procesos, bueno, como ustedes saben, todo se volvió virtual, pero hicimos una reeducación virtual de muchas mujeres en sus espacios públicos, digamos, en sus espacios privados. Les dotamos en algún momento de dispositivos móviles para estar conectadas y que pudiéramos estar en contacto con las policías. Pues ustedes no les voy a contar que ya sabemos el incremento de violencias que se dio en esos momentos, pero estuvimos trabajando básicamente en 3 tipos de intervención virtual en foros regionales. El primero fue sobre la respuesta. cómo podíamos trabajar en el mismo mes de que se declara la pandemia. Comenzamos a trabajar en seguridad a través de distribución de kits de biodesinfección, cómo pudimos estar hablando para hacer las rondas en pleno toque de queda, las mujeres lideresas haciendo rondas con las en las patrullas policiales para definir si había casos o no de violencia sexual. Luego también hicimos otro espacio para proteger los medios de vida de las mujeres. Se estaban viendo muy afectadas. Y ustedes tendrán que decir qué tiene que ver las ciudades seguras con los medios de vida de las mujeres. Pues tiene que ver todo. Todo porque si las mujeres no tienen protegida la manera en la cual se están ganando su sustento y están trabajando en muchas áreas, tuvimos ahí pues no solamente hablar entre las latinoamericanas, nos acompañaron compañeras de una organización de India, de SSP, con una colega muy querida pues que ya no está entre nosotras, Prema Gopalan, dio toda una instrucción cómo trabajar el proceso de proteger medios de vida para la seguridad de las mujeres. Trabajamos con compañeras de Kenia, tratando de vincular que en todas partes del mundo eso se estaba afectando con el COVID. Y luego hicimos el último proceso en trabajo territorial con las mujeres sobre todo lo que tenía que ver con agentes de la cooperación y políticas públicas, cómo se va a redefinir el tema de espacios seguros para las mujeres después. Y bueno, en mitad de todo, con esta agenda regional, comenzamos a trabajar la Escuela Regional de Liderazgo por las Ciudades Seguras y los derechos de las mujeres a la ciudad. Estas escuelas están operando pues en diferentes temas producto de COVID. En Guatemala nos fuimos por el sistema alimentario como derecho a la ciudad, como parte de lo que más afectado estaba. En Colombia están trabajando en el tema de las mujeres indígenas en Bogotá, la seguridad de las mujeres indígenas en estos temas que no se había ni siquiera mencionado antes. En Argentina trabajando procesos municipales, en Brasil trabajando el acceso al agua en las favelas durante COVID y la seguridad de las mujeres. Y bueno, todo eso pues ha tomado lugar y ha estado trabajándose. Precisamente porque también utilizamos muchas de las, digamos, herramientas y metodologías dentro del proceso con ONU Habitat. Tenemos instalados campus de pensadoras urbanas en diferentes ciudades para avanzar esta agenda de mujeres por el derecho a la ciudad, porque dijimos, bueno, no se va a avanzar solita, necesitamos acompañarla de otros procesos que están ya trabajándose. No hemos olvidado de trabajar constantemente la incidencia municipal. Colocar los temas de esta agenda en agenda municipal ha sido básicamente el proceso en el que nos hemos estado ocupando todos estos años. Y quiero entonces como decir, porque no tengo mucho tiempo, yo sé que ya estamos con otras participaciones, quiero ver que si podemos ir caminando la siguiente, the next please, the next slide. Solo para contarles brevemente cómo estamos haciendo, estas organizaciones estuvimos involucradas en el desarrollo de esta agenda. Can you pass, please, the next? Okay. Yo creo que se quedó trabado. Can you pass ahí están las ciudades que ustedes pueden ver: Bogotá, Ciudad de Guatemala, Córdoba, Lima, San Salvador, Santiago, que trabajamos en la definición de estas agendas. The next one, please. Y ahí pues diversos datos que expresaron esta situación. La tenemos también online, ya la van a poder ver, pero si quieren, the next one. The next one. And the next one, please, porque tiene que ver con esos. Quiero llegar hasta the next one. Aquí, las demandas de las mujeres en cuanto a la seguridad que tienen para plantear en una agenda pública. The next one. Y ahí está, primero, una ciudad segura sin violencias contra las mujeres, ¿verdad? La segunda, the next, ya voy ahí, mobility, urban mobility, desde en a gender perspective, en ese sentido. The next one, servicios y equipamientos urbanos en una ciudad, en la vida cotidiana de las mujeres. Eso no puede existir en una ciudad sin ello. La autonomía económica para las mujeres es parte totalmente de lo que es la agenda de mujeres por la ciudad, the next. Y por último, políticas y programas de vivienda con enfoque de género también se han discutido mucho, que hasta ahí vamos trabajando en el tema de ciudades seguras, ¿verdad? Y la última, the next. La paridad como un horizonte, la participación política de las mujeres es parte también fundamental de este proceso. Y por último, la integración social de mujeres migrantes, lo que nos comentaban acá, desplazadas, refugiadas. La agenda de Next One convoca las propuestas sobre riesgos ambientales, porque también pensamos que el riesgo urbano es totalmente vinculado a la seguridad de las mujeres en este sentido. En the next one, y cómo luego, pues, this is some way that we can advance, que podemos avanzar en las propuestas de agenda, pero decimos nosotras, para ello hemos tenido y definido currículas nuevas de trabajo, ¿verdad? En este sentido. Pero decir entonces que, como bien dijo Kalpan hace un momentito, con eso voy a terminar porque tenemos más compañeras y compañeros. Nosotras no estamos trabajando el tema de la seguridad de las mujeres, las ciudades seguras, solamente como, por así decir, una política municipal, porque se tiene que dar y cuando el municipio cambia autoridades se va la política, se desempodera la política. Estamos trabajando esto como un enfoque integrado que llegó para quedarse. Este enfoque ya no es algo que podamos decir que no se va a trabajar aunque no hayan recursos. Entonces, y además, lo más interesante que se están colocando en la agenda de los gobiernos locales, municipales y regionales y ojalá globales muy pronto. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry to make you run thank you. And I think the Latin American Network has taught us how every issue is connected. So it's housing, it's migrants, it's water, it's sanitation, it's the violence against women. All of it is linked to how to get a safer cities for women. So we have two more speakers right now. I'm going to go to one more video, quick video, for Ms. Purabi Paul from Jagori in India. She is a renowned leader of SMS, an organization working with single and women farmers. And she, through the support of Jagori, a feminist organization, she's taking the agenda of safe and inclusive public spaces to rural areas in the state of Jharkhand. Please, Ms. Purabi Paul's video.
Hi, Johar. I am Purabi Pal from Shramajীবী Mahila Samiti, which means Women Worker Organization. We are working in Jharkhand, a state located in the northeast part of India, known for its rich mineral deposit forest and hills. The rural areas of this state have a high percentage of tribal population. We focus on rights of poor, migrant, single women, farmers and unorganized sector women workers. Today I want to share our experience of working with Jagori, a feminist organization based in Delhi working on ending violence against women and taking the agenda of safe and inclusive public space to one of our work area, Jharkhand. Jagori has adopted the women safety audit methodology for India and used it majorly in urban areas. When we started working together, we realized that this methodology has to be adopted further because rural public spaces are quite different than urban public spaces. Rural spaces have open landscape and there is often an absence of clear boundaries between what is public and what is private. In urban areas, there are multiple bodies responsible for the public infrastructure and service like road, water supply, transport and health services. But in village, the village council called Gram Panchayat in India is solely responsible for the local governance and the needs of the citizen. In this local governance body, we have mandatory reservation for marginalized people such as scheduled caste or Dalit, formerly known as untouchable, scheduled tribe and women. We conducted safety audit or selected route where women feel unsafe and fear. We found out main safety concerns were lack of street light, inadequate and inaccessible public toilets, dearth of public health facilities, paucity of public transport and police presence in public spaces like bus stop, nearby school, market, spaces, etc. The audit makes us realize how difficult it is for women, especially elderly, pregnant and women with disability, to access public spaces due to actual incident and fear of violence. We shared the audit findings with the women in villages, elected women and men representatives and village heads. Women corroborated our findings and shared their personal experience of feeling unsafe in the public place. To our great surprise, many of them were keen to raise their issue of women's safety in their village council meeting and take up audit recommendation to the village head. Village head also expressed their commitment on the issue. So, with Jagori's support, we are now further training women on this issue, helping them understand how to insist on budget allocation and utilization of women's safety concern in the village development plan. We will take up the issues of street lighting and public toilets as starting point, since such as gender needs are often not prioritized in village development plan. We know that there is a long way ahead, but we are happy to at least we have been able to challenge the culture of silence about violence against women in public spaces in rural area of Jharkhand. Thank you so much. You are listening my speech patiently.
Thank you so much. And I think the issue of public toilets is one that's common in many countries around the world. So now I will go over to Ms. Wanjiru Mubuthia, who is a grassroots women leader from Kenya. She's part of the organization Mathare Legal Aid and Human Rights. She's a member of the Wairu Commission, and she does coordination of the grassroots women's organization in the informal settlements in Kenya. So over to you.
Thank you.
Wanjiru.
Thank you for giving me this chance. As she has said, I'm from the second largest informal settlements in Nairobi, Kenya, which has a space of like 1 square miles with a population of like 500,000 people. And with a lot of challenges, accessibility to water, sanitation, toilets, infrastructure. But despite of having all these challenges, as grassroots women, we were able to mobilize ourselves, organize our groups in different, we call them villages where we are coming from, the informal settlements, and this is an urban informal settlement. And in the process, we did mapping and identified, do we have public spaces? Are women accessing water, sanitation, meaning toilets? Our children able to go to schools? After getting all that information, because our governments, local and national government, they saw us as spectators, but they didn't see us as solution providers. So what happened is that with support from our partners, Wairu Commission and other partners, we were able to have continuous local-to-local dialogues. The local-to-local dialogue is a process where once we identified mapping of the challenges we were facing, the resources we needed, we identify in particular the relevant authorities who are concerned in those problems that we are facing. And when inviting them in the dialogue, we are able to share with them, these are the challenges, and this is where we see the solution. And from that angle, we are able now to start following up. If it is about infrastructure, we know where to go. If it is about the public toilets, we know where to go. If it is about especially designing, I like talking so much about the public toilets, because initially the public toilets were there, but they were not designed friendly to the women. So women were having challenges when using them. But after several sharing the design we wanted and showing them the reason why we want them to change when constructing new toilets, they were able to go with our design. And right now, we do have public toilets which are accessible. Again, we realized that women did not have safe spaces to do their businesses. And since we had identified the spaces, few spaces which women were doing their businesses and they were not safe in terms of security, in terms of the disposal of garbage, we were able again to start negotiating on that process. And in the process, even our youths in the community now are getting some income because they are collecting the garbage. And then our local authorities providing for transport, which comes and picks that garbage after charging us a small fee. So we are all benefiting as all the stakeholders, because we thought solving a solution, we should not solve one solution in a silo. We need to solve one, we need to come up with a strategy solving many challenges in our community. The other thing, the biggest challenge in the informal settlements, most of the land is owned by individuals and majority of the land is owned by the government. So despite of us having a very large population in the informal settlements where I was born and brought up, we don't own that land up to date as we are talking. So for us to have accessibility to that land so that we're able to improve on the structures, we realized that grassroots women are marginalized when all these formations of several committees, the development committees, the slum improvement committees, women were not involved. So as grassroots organization movements, we started doing advocacy, and right now we do have, the committee is formed of 18 members, the Informal Settlement Improvement Committee. But we have like 7 to 8 women who sit in those committees, so that when all the development processes are being discussed, we are part and parcel of that process, so that we can also have the ownership. And we usually say that whatever majority of what fits the women, it's suitable for the community, the children, and the community at large. The government have come now, the local and county government have come to realize that grassroots women and their communities are part and parcel of what they want to improve. The other thing we have started, because as I said, we don't own that land, we have started formation of cooperatives. The cooperatives are to prepare ourselves in case the government now agrees the process of giving us the land ownership. We already have some resources somewhere, so that if we don't go tell them that that we need that land, they might ask us, once we give you land, how are you going to improve on your house, on your structures when it comes to housing? Already we have something on the table. So this also makes us, even partners, donors, understand when we sit down to discuss with them. The other thing we realized is that women had, during the COVID-19, which really affected us, we realized that most of the women could not provide basic services for our families. So we were supported with grants by Wairo Commission. After receiving those grants, we started doing something we call in our local community table banking. What we mean by table banking is that from the business which we were able to start, we do contribute some little money which we put on the table, and then some other women can borrow it, either return it or we can give us a grant, so that they're able to come up with more businesses and also be able to give basic needs to their families. This one has we have reached more than 60 women, and when you touch 60 women, you can imagine how many communities are attached there. The other thing we did, when we did mapping and identified that we do have sometimes public spaces in the community, but they are turned into dumping site. So we came up with a strategy of changing the physical designs. Physical design, meaning we remove the garbage, women come up with small businesses, that is an open space. So when we are negotiating with our local authority for those spaces. At least now we have something to showcase. Show them that once we remove the garbage, we can have the urban farming because of nutrition to our families. And then we can also have now public spaces for our children to play, or even come up with other designs that they want even to make schools for us. I can see you are shaking your hand. Thank you.
Thank you. I have had a terrible role just telling people to stop. It's so interesting to hear all these stories. But I'm really happy to share that Mr. Elkin Velasquez, the Regional Director of UN Habitat in Latin America and the Caribbean, has joined us and will share his perspective, his experience about these issues, and give us a few words on how we should move forward and how UN Habitat is going to support this agenda.
Of course, we will continue supporting this agenda since it is a central part of our mandate and is a central part of the focus of the new urban agenda. Now, we need really to move from the 30,000 feet perspective of the new urban agenda and a very important number of pilots in the world with very good work as the work that you are developing in your own localities, cities, neighborhoods, to scale. I think our challenge here, but also our endeavor and responsibility, is to see and to discuss how we can scale up what we are already doing. Gender-friendly cities for a better future. We have been discussing about this. I want really to thank you for inviting UN Habitat to share the final words of this, only for this event. Also, the last day of the World Urban Forum, which means that so far you have been able to listen a lot to what has been said, to share your own experiences with fellows from other countries, with your networks, with your peers in other countries. And you have noticed, certainly, that gender issues, that women's empowerment has been at the center of our event. I think you heard that at the level of panels, 50-something% of panelists have been women. And this is something that happens because there is also the willingness to do it. And of course, the mobilization towards that to happen. Thank you, because all of you have been supporting us, UN Habitat, to make this happen. This is a World Urban Forum gender-friendly. And we need really that the spirit that comes from here can inspire all of us when we come back to our towns, to our neighborhoods, to our districts, to our cities, to our countries. And I invite you strongly to advance in that direction. Let me share from our experiences in UN Habitat that have been really developed with you, because we work in partnership with your institutions, your networks, can tell us there is a number of things, but I want to concentrate on three at least. One, planning. We need to continue promoting that the practice of planning and design is really based on a gender perspective. And I think the narrative has been there. We already all know the narrative. There is a lot of methodologies, toolkits that are there. Over the years, we have been engaging in developing this with you. Again, where we still see the big opportunity to go to the next level, if you prefer to accelerate this trend, is in action at scale. And on that, the key question I personally have, but I think we can share this question with some of you, is what are the means that we need to make this happen? It's not only a matter of resources. It's a matter of cultural transformation. It's a matter of connection, governance. It's a matter of making visible those who are still invisible in their communities, in their cities, and that are defending, promoting, and projecting innovations, projecting new work based on the gender-friendly perspective. So this is something that we would like really to come out of this World Urban Forum at the end, in a few hours, when we will hear about the declared actions that we all, as different constituencies working together, moving forward after the WUF, are committed to make happen. Planning and design for gender-friendly cities, we need to go to scale. Then let me share a very Latin American, at the very beginning Latin American, but honestly today I think it's a global shared perspective, and is the right to the city. Back in 2016, we were all in Quito discussing about the approach of the right to the city, and the negotiations ended with a sentence like the following: the new urban agenda will promote the approach of cities for all that in some countries and regions is referred to as the right to the city. I think today we could all say that we are in a position to promote in all countries in the world the right to the city. And the right to the city exists, and implicitly means that is the right for all in the city to all opportunities and rights that have to be materialized in a city. And the gender perspective is central to the right to the city, because as I was just listening the last presentations, this is something that we, in theory and in the frameworks, we know that has to happen. We acknowledge and we already accept, but again, we need really to move the aspirations into actions that can be accelerated and can be increased exponentially. Cities for all are cities where the rights of women are fully developed, fully materialized, fully observed. This is the perspective that we do have with the new urban agenda. That is, of course, at the forefront for us as the reference global framework. And I would like to call it the international standards. My third comment, my third message, and this is also from a personal past experience. I have learned a lot from you guys in the women's networks, the women in Habitat in Latin America, the network. Maite, thank you for all your wisdom and generosity to share this with us in UN Habitat. And it was in Latin America and the Caribbean that the perspective of safer cities became safer cities for women and girls. And I would say that today it is not possible to talk about safer cities and all the safety pin approach behind that if we don't focus, of course, in the first place on the prevention of crime, prevention of all forms of violence for women and girls in our cities. And we can see the other side of the coin. There is still a lot to do on this. We have learned on the methodologies. We have seen, again, a number of very important toolkits, new methodologies on this. We have had the privilege and opportunity to contribute to this process. But again, it is very important really to continue working very hard so that those methodologies can be accessible to all cities, all neighborhoods. In this very World Urban Forum, there has been something very interesting, and I think that connects very well with the idea of expanding safer cities for all, safer cities for women and girls. And it was called the revolution of proximity, the revolution of proximities, related to the approaches like 15-minute city, neighborhood improvement, ecological and sustainable neighborhoods. Well, we do see there an opportunity to relaunch, revamp all work that we have been doing on safer cities. Because in our view, it brings to the center of the table at the international level the perspective of, one perspective of the following. We need to focus in the locality, we need to focus in the community, we need to focus in the neighborhood. And this is not new for all of us here. We started working about that. But now what is interesting is that it's becoming an aspiration for number of global efforts in terms of how we can make the global agendas be transformational and be transformed into more actions. Safer cities is also finding here, and this is going to be my last comment, finding here at the World Urban Forum, a new perspective, a new combination, if you prefer, a new articulation with the idea of caring cities. And that has been possible thanks to the leadership of a number of mayors that have been here presenting their new approaches, triggered at the moment of at the worst moment of the pandemic, the socioeconomic and health impact of the pandemic, and leaders like the mayor of Bogota and other mayors here were able to show how this inspirational concept of caring city was transformed into concrete, not only policies, but actions, integrated actions, and orientation of the public investments. I think that from now it is very important to start talking about safer and caring cities. That could be a very nice blend for the international community, for practitioners, also for those working in the academia, in research, in innovation, toward the generation of a new generation of tools to advance in this process. Let me end by, again, thank you for all your support, your participation, your engagement in the World Urban Forum, and let us continue working together towards a gender-friendly cities world for a better future, for a better urban future, as we say. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Elkin. I think we had a really interesting panel. We had Kenya, Turkey, Latin America, South Africa, India, and these final words from Elkin, I think the idea of the caring city, which you're absolutely right, it's been really centered in this World Urban Forum. It took COVID for us to really realize that actually the care economy is the bulwark upon which our entire city structure rests. And recognizing that has, I think, it is the fruition of the work of all of us for the past 25 years. So, and I think UN Habitat has been a very natural space for the women and women's right to the city approach. I think we've learned, it's been a learning process both ways. And we really take your point that I think we have to go beyond pilots. We have to scale. In the next 10 years, in this decade of action, the next 8 years, it's not even 10, we have to scale. We need much, much more large-scale sort of improvements and complete transformation of our cities. And I think we're on the path. I like to be positive and optimistic. So thank you again very much, everyone. Thank you, all of you, for this wonderful panel. Thank you, Elkin. Yeah.